Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Lisa and I like to read books on the internet. So if you have been keeping up with my last few videos, you will know that I have been pretty focused on reading my physical TBR as well as trying to finish up series that I've already started. A few weeks back I made myself a series tracker and I figured out that I'm in the middle of 16 series. So I have been trying to tick some of them off the list and get some of them completed. In my last video you will have seen that I finished 2 of those series, so we're down to 14 now, which is fantastic, and by the end of summer I want to have that down to 8. That's my goal. However, I have been so focused on finishing up series that I've already started and like trying to get that down that I have been neglecting some new releases that have come out this year and last year as well. So I thought that it would be fun to take about a week or so to just read kind of newer releases that I missed out on, that I didn't read when they first came out. So that's what today's video is going to be. There's going to be a mix of, I'm not entirely sure how many books I'm going to get to in this video. There'll be at least 2. But the other day I realised that some of my favourite authors have books that I haven't read yet, and that is something that we need to fix. So we are starting this video off with none other than Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't think I've ever read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I didn't like. Other than 1 or 2, I've loved them all. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate when I say this. My least favourite Taylor Jenkins Reid book is Daisy and the Six. I think maybe the time I read it maybe wasn't a good time to read it. Maybe if I reread it I'd love it, but when I did read it I didn't. But other than that, I pretty much loved everything. I love the whole Malibu Rising, Carrie Soto was back, that kind of universe. This one is something I put off because I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. I didn't know if it would be up my alley or not, but everybody loves it who reads it. So this is what we're going to start with. Let's see how we've gone. Hello. It has been a few days since I started reading Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I just thought I'd hop on and give a little update. So obviously we all know this is about space. It's about a female astronaut and kind of her time at NASA, I guess. I wasn't really 100% sure what I was going into. I just knew it was about a female astronaut going to space, and then obviously that there was going to be some sort of a romance in it because it does say a love story on the front of it. I actually have not heard anybody discussing the romance in it. Our main character Joan's love of space, maybe? However, what I do know is I'm about a third of the way into the book and I didn't really realise a lot about this book. I suppose a lot of people have read it and I guess I wasn't really listening to what they said about it while they were reading it because I hadn't read it yet, so I didn't really understand. And there are kind of like multiple timelines going on in the story. There's also, it's written in third person and it's kind of dual perspectives in a way. Like you're focusing in on Joan in one part, and then you could jump to focusing in on Vanessa in another part, who's also a female astronaut. It's not entirely clear at the minute who the love interest is. I had some ideas when we were meeting people at the start. You meet a lot of people at the start of this book, but I'm changing my mind and I actually think that the love story part of this, the romance part of this, could be going in a different direction than I thought. But I've not heard anybody else mention that before, so I don't know if it's like an unwritten rule that we're not supposed to mention it. So I won't talk about the love interest too much because it's not definite for a start because there's been no romance in it so far. But yeah, I have kind of my suspicions of what's going to happen here. There was part of me afraid to read this because obviously there was going to be a lot of spacey talk and like things like that, and there are little parts of it that I am a little bit like, I don't really know what that means, but it's not enough to not be able to enjoy the story and not be able to be immersed in the story. Like when they're talking about some of the abbreviations, I can't remember what it stands for, but I can just move on. I don't have to go searching it up, like it's fine. Or like some of the things that they have to do on the spaceship or whatever it's called, rocket, I don't know, some of the stuff that they have to do while they're there, like I don't understand that because like I've never been in one, so I don't fully, like I'm not like 100% like, oh my god yeah, like I forgot you had to strap this to that and like that kind of thing. Like I'm not connecting with that, but it's not enough to take me out of the story. It's just enough for me to like read about it and move on. There's kind of like a lot going on, so because you're in like different timelines, you're in a mission in one timeline and you're in like the training camp in another, and you're kind of like learning a lot about a lot of different people all at once. And one thing that is really standing out to me is Joan's relationship with her sister and her niece, and I feel like the more we get into it, the more that's going to come to the front here, I guess. Joan's sister had a baby quite young, and Joan is really like helpful and really close to her niece, but her sister's a bit of a wagon. She's a bit crazy. Not crazy, she's a bit, I don't know, a bit of a bitch. Like, not grateful for the help that she gets from Joan, and also just like a bit, I don't know, if you've read it, you know what I mean. So yeah, we've got kind of a lot going on, but also not a lot going on because we keep jumping from timeline to timeline, so like we're not getting one full story, but in a really nice way. This is very cinematic in my opinion. Like, I can see this as a film. We are exactly 33% of the way into this book. I have just made myself a really hot coffee, which is burning my fingers, and I'm gonna sit down and read for the next little while and hopefully get a bit further into the plot and kind of learn some more. This book in particular I feel like is not a multitasking book. So for example, usually I'll put a show on and read a book, or listen to something and read a book, or just be doing something else while I'm reading a book. This is a you're not doing anything else kind of a book for me. But also it is quite an immersive story. Like, I do kind of feel like I'm in it and that I'm at these parties or lessons or in the control room while it's happening. Like, you do feel very immersed in it, in my opinion. But what I do know is I'm going to read some more. This book is so much more than I thought it was going to be. I am about halfway through, and how unexpected it was for me to be crying reading it. It's a really unrelatable story in a way, as in, like, I'm not an astronaut, I don't know any astronauts, I don't know anybody who will ever go to space, but you kind of find yourself forming an attachment with the characters, particularly Joan in my opinion, and just kind of going through what she's going through with her is honestly gut-wrenching. And there's a lot of stuff in this, like, it's set in the 80s, but a lot of it, there's a lot of kind of commentary on males and females getting overlooked for things, and yeah, you're invited to join in on certain things, but not necessarily at a cost, but you're kind of only in the room because it's to tick a box. And I feel like some of that in some ways is still like really relevant now, 40 years later, which is crazy. This is not at all going the way I thought it was gonna go. It's not even about what I thought it was gonna be about. I thought it was kind of gonna be like us just following Joan and like her kind of learn how to be an astronaut, being an astronaut and going to space, and that is absolutely not what's happening in this book at all. There are elements of this book that I feel like are huge parts of this book that I never seem to be talking about, so I don't know if it's something that I should bring up or if it's just kind of one of those things where this book hits harder when you go into it not knowing what you're going into. But it's crazy, and I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've loved almost everything she's ever written. This is nothing like anything I've ever read from her before, and like not in a bad way, not in a good way, like just it's just so different. I feel like younger me would not have enjoyed this book because it's not a romance, it's not a typical story, it is very much fiction. I am absolutely eating it up, and I feel like it's making me want to get into more fiction books, but I feel like it could also just be this book because it's such a good book. I have 2 hours to spare. I'm hoping to make a big bit of progress now. I'd love to get to maybe 75%. I'm a slow reader and I get distracted easily, so we'll see. I'm going to keep reading, and if you've not read this book, definitely pick it up because it is so good. Okay, so I have just gotten to 80% of the way through the book, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how I feel right now before I finish it off. First of all, the chapters in this book are weird. Like, there are no chapters. It kind of jumps in time and then jumps in setting, and it's not a traditional layout, which usually I don't like. For this, I don't mind it at all. However, this book has not really gone the way I thought it was going to. In the beginning, you're in 1984 on a mission, and it's like a high stakes situation, and then you kind of jump to the past and you're getting Vanessa's past and Joan's past and like little bits of information about them. And I kind of thought it was going to just jump from 1980 to 84 back and forth, and it kind of has stayed in the earlier years and it's working its way back up to the 84 timeline, which is interesting, but at the same time there's a high stakes situation happening on the mission that's happening in 84, and that's kind of where my interest is. Like, I'm just kind of reading through the chapters to try to get back to that. It is very interesting though, like you're learning a lot about the two characters, Vanessa and Joan, a lot about their background, a lot about their families. Well, Joan's family, not really much about Vanessa at all, to be quite honest. But yeah, it's not really the way I thought it was going to go. We are in past timeline, but we've come up to 84 now. We're almost at the time frame of the high stakes part. So I'm kind of like rushing through to get to the incident. So yeah, that is where we're at the minute. I only have a little bit left, so I'm going to sit, I'm going to read it, and then we'll have final thoughts at the end. Okay, so I am just about to head to the gym, but before I do, I want to give a little bit of an update. This lighting is terrible, I'm going to have to move. I wanted to give a little bit of an update on where we're at. So, last night I finished Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I absolutely bawled my eyes out for the last, like, 5% or so. As I said, when I was reading it, it kind of went a different way than I expected. You got kind of the present day timeline in the beginning, and then you went into the past, and then you started to work your way up to the present day. By the end of this book, you do catch up to where you started off with, and you continue that kind of plot line that was happening there. This book was absolutely amazing. When I picked up this book, I kind of expected to be a little bit confused, a little bit lost about some of the like technical terms, the lingo, I suppose, because it is about astronauts and it is about going to space. And there was a tiny element of that. There were little small things that I kind of couldn't keep up with, but it wasn't impactful. It didn't matter to the story. I did not expect this book to rip the heart straight out of my chest. I did not expect to connect to the characters and their story as much as I did, and I also didn't expect the exploration of heartbreak that comes along with love, and not traditional heartbreak of breakups and things like that, but just everyday hardships, I suppose. And if you have not read this book yet, please pick it up because it is phenomenal. I couldn't recommend it enough. I gave it 4.75 stars. There were parts of it that felt like a 5-star for me, but it just didn't overall feel like a 5-star for me. I am very harsh with my ratings. A 4.75 is literally definitely up there with one of my favourite books of the year, and I kind of didn't expect it. It's very different from anything Taylor Jenkins Reid has written before, in my opinion. There are elements of it that are like similar, but just different at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. There was, I suppose, what did hold me back from giving it 5 stars is there was kind of a plot line with Joan and her sister, and the way that ended, the plotline kind of just stopped. It didn't expand or whatever. I suppose, like, this book ends, there's no epilogue or anything like that, and I suppose in an epilogue maybe it would have been expanded. I don't particularly think that this book needs an epilogue. I think it was perfect the way it ended. I just would have liked to see either a resolution or a dissolution of her relationship with her sister. But overall, a fantastic book. Okay, so because we finished one book, we need to pick a new book. Now, there are 2 things that I like to do every month. One is have an audiobook going, particularly on Spotify, because you get a certain amount of hours for free with your membership a month, and I feel like they should go to use. And 2, I like to read a Kindle Unlimited book, at least one a month, because otherwise paying for that is a waste of money, and I like to get value for money. So what I thought we would do is do one of each. So I have actually already picked an audiobook on Spotify. I started listening to it this morning, and I went with a book that it's possibly not the first book from this author, but it's the first one I remember hearing people talk about. This author, I haven't picked up anything by her, and she has been highly recommended by a lot of people I watch on YouTube, and one of her latest books is like kind of in the running for like book of the summer for some people. So I decided to pick up an Annabelle Monaghan book, and I went with Nora Goes Off Script. I have been listening to this morning. I am 17% of the way through. I'm only on chapter like 3, but chapter 1 and 3 are both pretty long chapters, and I don't think there's that many chapters. There's just like 20 something chapters in it, I think. So some of the chapters obviously are a little bit chunkier. I'm enjoying it so far. Basically, so what I already knew about this book is that Nora is recently divorced and a screenwriter, and she writes kind of a film about her divorce from her husband, and it gets picked up, and they actually asked to film some of it in her house. So the film crew comes for just 2 days, and then they're supposed to leave, and then one of the stars asks to stay on. Now, I kind of thought that this would like happen gradually. We're on chapter 3, this has already happened. They've wrapped up, they're gone home. he's waiting to start. So it's very kind of fast moving, which I love because we're in the story already, and I'm only in chapter 3, so I'm enjoying that one so far. I have heard nothing but good things about Annabelle Monaghan and her writing, and I get it. So that is going to be my Spotify book that fits in with this video, because this book has been out for years, I'm pretty sure, and I have not picked it up. I haven't decided on my Kindle Unlimited book yet, but I am going to go to the gym and I'm going to listen to Nora Goes Off script while I'm at the gym, and then later on when we come home and I want to sit down and read, then we can look on Kindle Unlimited and see what we can find. I do have some physical options that I could also choose if I don't see anything on Kindle Unlimited, but we'll see when we get home. So I accidentally went shopping and now it's really late in the day. I have been listening to, earlier on in the gym I was listening to Nora Goes Off script. I got to chapter 8, I think.
Chapter 8.
Yeah, which is 35% of the way through, which is a good chunk for today, and I'll probably listen when I'm cooking later on, so I should get to about 50% today. This is a really easy listen, and I would imagine it's a really easy read as well, and I'm hoping maybe that all of her books are like this, and that kind of makes them perfect summer holiday, like poolside beach reads, because you don't have to give them too much attention. I find that, I'm not saying that it's boring and there's nothing going on, but I don't have to give my undivided attention to listening to this. I can also be doing something else because it is just really easy, which I'm loving. So I can see why there's a lot of hype around Annabelle Monaghan's books. I wouldn't say there's as much hype around her books as like Emily Henry or anything like that, because I don't think the writing is necessarily of the same standard, but this is a very enjoyable book so far, and so far 35% of the way in I can see myself reading more Annabelle Monaghan books. But now it is gorgeously sunny outside and I want to go sit in the garden for a bit, so I need to find a Kindle read. I don't really want to start a series, I don't really want to continue a series. I kind of just want like a standalone, which is why I kind of thought I'd do an Annabelle Monaghan on this, but alas, I will not be, because I have already started listening to one. The one thing I hate about Kindle Unlimited is that you can't just go on your phone on the Amazon app and like pick a Kindle Unlimited book. It doesn't work. You have to use the browser, and every time I go into the browser and go into Amazon on my phone, it just keeps redirecting me to the app, so it's really annoying. So I would usually do this on my computer, but we're just going to shop on the actual Kindle. I'm kind of looking for a standalone that everybody read and I just kind of missed out on. Top picks for you. Why don't we try that one? Okay, we've got Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. I never read that one. Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I never read that either. None of these are really like screaming out to me. Okay, I've picked a book. There were very limited options I felt that were calling to me. I wanted something kind of summery, not necessarily summery, but not anything too heavy. I did want like a rom-com kind of thing, and maybe it was just the Kindle store on Kindle is really difficult to maneuver because like it's quite slow at moving, so I probably have to have a better look on my laptop if I wanted to keep going. But I picked one, and I picked Abby Jimenez Say You'll Remember Me, which is a newer release compared to kind of the books that I'm reading at the moment, which are older releases that I missed out on. But I never gave this book a second thought when it first came out, because if you've been keeping up on my channel, you know that I have been struggling to get into Abby Jimenez books pretty much for about 6 months, and I read 2 if not 3 of her interconnected standalone series, and it wasn't until I read the very last one that I read that I kind of understood the Abby Jimenez hype. I recently read Just for the Summer, and that was my first 5-star book of the year. I bloody loved it, and now I understand why people love Abby Jimenez. So because of that, I feel like this book qualifies, because I would have never picked up this book if I didn't like Just for the Summer. Just for the Summer was my last ditch attempt at enjoying an Abby Jimenez book, and now we're going to try this one. I'm hoping that this one doesn't turn me off Abby Jimenez, because I know that this one has had mixed reviews because of the trope in it, and I'm kind of nervous. So yeah, let's go outside, sit in the sunshine and read our next book. Guys, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, and if you have been shouting at the screen this whole time saying you are wrong, you're correct. It wasn't until I was in bed last night and my fiance asked me what I was reading, and I said, Say You'll Remember Me. I looked at the cover and I thought, that's not the new one. That's not the new one. I thought this whole time that I was reading the new release by Abby Jimenez. No. So this one actually fits into the video even better, because it is an older release that I never got around to. so it fits in with the theme better. I don't know what I was thinking when I thought that this was the new one. I have no explanation for that. But yeah, I'm not too far into this still. I think I'm like 19%. I am loving this at the minute. I love the two main characters. I love how it's like Grumpy Sunshine, and we've just gotten to the part where she's like, oh, sorry, I'm probably never going to see you again. And I have no idea where it's going to go. I actually have no clue, to be honest. This one is set in the exact same kind of area as Just for the Summer was, but we're about to leave this area, I think. I don't know, maybe he's going to follow her. She has to like move, so maybe he's going to follow her. Maybe she's going to be able to come back. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a little teeny, there was a little teeny tiny crossover. There was not an incident, but there was like in Just for the Summer, the two main characters in that one helped a woman who was at a bus stop, and that was the mother of the female main character in this one, Samantha. So yeah, I'm excited to continue reading this. I'm actually going away today with my fiance to England for a couple of days, so I will surely get this done while I'm there. That's pretty much it for now. I mean, I'm very early on in the book, so I don't have too many thoughts. But I'm going to have a little read this afternoon. I'm hoping to get a bit further along into it today and see where it takes us. Guys, it has been so long since I filmed a clip for this. It's been at least 5 days, I think. I actually took a couple days break from life for a few days, and I just didn't feel like picking up the camera and updating. So I do have some updates. My first update is I have finished Nora Goes Off Script by Annabel Monaghan. I did fully listen to that one on audiobook and I really enjoyed it, and I think I am going to try to pick up another Annabel Monaghan book this summer. Really easy to read, well, listen to. The writing was just like super simple. I really loved how you got straight into the story in the beginning. Like there was no kind of, I suppose, background or like, yeah, like background building. You kind of just learned the background quite quickly through just being told, oh, this had happened, and like kind of as the story went on, getting a bit more information on it, which I really liked because I like when we get straight into the action. It was a perfect length. I felt like it was the time to finish when it finished. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was super enjoyable. I think I really find it hard to commit to anything higher than a 4-star when it's an audiobook, because I don't necessarily connect with the book and the characters as much as when I read it physically or like on my Kindle or something. So I do think that that does impact the rating I end up giving a book. I will potentially read physically the next Annabel Monaghan book I try, but I think for me there were just, so obviously the book is about Nora, and Nora is like a screenwriter, so she like usually writes like 90-minute films for the romance kind of channel, and she gets like a blockbuster, and it was just kind of like there was an award ceremony and stuff, and just kind of how some things played out. Obviously I'm not in the industry, so it's not that this is like impossible, but some of it just felt a little bit like fluke that they would like end up where they did in that award ceremony and stuff. Just like on your first film, like I know obviously it happens, but it just felt like it was just for the sake of the plot. Like it could have been like maybe like a smaller award or something, or like a convention maybe to get them in the same room. It felt possibly just a little bit far-fetched in some aspects of it, and there was a lack of communication, but I completely understood the lack of communication. I don't usually, lack of communication winds me up because just communicate, but I understood. So that's my update on Nora Goes Off Script. My other update is for Say You'll Remember Me, which I have been reading on my Kindle. I am 69% of the way into that one. I'm really enjoying that one. We're kind of at a stage in it where I kind of don't know where we're gonna go. I can't remember when the last time I checked in was. I think it was when I realised that I was reading a book that I didn't realise I was reading. I thought I was reading The Night We Met, which is actually the second book in this. I think it's going to be a trilogy, the same as her other little interconnected standalones are. I don't think it would have mattered if I had picked up the wrong one first, because they are just interconnected. I don't think they're like a proper series. But I think when I figured out I was reading the wrong book, I was the last time I checked in. So basically they met, and then our female main character was actually moving away the next day after they went on their first date, and she basically was like, have a nice life, this is never going to work out, I'm going to live in California. And he lives in Minnesota. They've ended up now in a long distance relationship, but it's kind of, he has like past family trauma, she's like dealing with a lot of family issues now. There's a lot of family stuff going on, but what's kind of getting me is she, from what I can tell from what's kind of been happening, I don't think she's going to be able to leave California in the near future. He has a business commitment in Minnesota, so I kind of don't see, like, I have no idea where this is going to go. There's like only 30% of the book left. Are they just going to stay long distance forever? Because that is not feasible. And as someone who was in a long distance relationship, my fiance is English and lived in England for the first part of our relationship, and he moved to Ireland to live with me. As someone who was in the predicament of being in a relationship where you might only see each other once in a month, once in longer than a month, you have to get on a plane to see your partner, it is very difficult to know if that would work out long term, because like I was very lucky when my fiance moved here, because it was getting to the stage where it was getting really difficult to keep traveling back and forth. So if neither of them are going to be able to move or like meet in the middle or like whatever, I don't know if that will work. I'm guessing that that's going to lead us to a third act breakup, so I can guess that much, but I don't know how they're going to resolve that breakup, because if neither of them can make the sacrifice, either him or her, if neither of them can do it, I don't know if it's feasible to live your entire life separately forever when there's no end date. And I hope it's not something like really unrealistic, like some wealthy billionaire comes in and buys the veterinary practice and then that means that Xavier can move. I hope it's not something like unrealistic like that, but I'm really interested to see where it goes, and I have no idea. I'm going to finish watching tonight's episode of Love Island, and then I'm going to read for a little bit, and then hopefully finish this either tonight, maybe not tonight, but sometime tomorrow would be ideal. I have finally finished Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This one took me a little while to read because I did take a bit of a break last week from reading. I was really enjoying this book. I was enjoying the dynamic. I was enjoying the unusual kind of plot, I suppose, that you don't often get long distance romance as a plot. I think I mentioned in my last update that I was a little bit, not concerned, but like I was wondering how it was going to work out with the whole long distance thing, and there was no kind of way for them to not be long distance anymore. She was kind of stuck in California, he was stuck in Minnesota. Obviously there was going to have to be a resolution, I understand that, but the resolution that we got, to me, is just not realistic, in the sense of these two people were very normal people. And I feel like sometimes in books, when you have somebody who's like super rich, some things can be not realistic because they're not realistic to somebody who isn't super rich. These two people were like basic normal people. So the resolution that happened was based off of not just one person but multiple people doing something not just nice, like overly nice. It wasn't like our main characters had like friends and family step in and help them. They were like pretty much strangers who ended up helping them and brought us to the resolution, which for me is like, that's just not real life. Like, you, whatever about having one person to step up and help you out with something, to have like a whole group of people to do that is just insane, to be honest. Like, in this economy, there's no way. So that kind of ruined it for me a little bit. There was a lot of this book where I thought we were on the road to like a 5-star, or even, I don't know if it ever gave me 5-star feels, but like over a 4, like 4.5 star maybe. And it just, the resolution just kind of killed it for me. There was one stage where, also not really a spoiler, but you're not gonna know who I'm talking about, but there is a point in the book where like a side character dies, but the way it's communicated from one of the main characters to the other is through a phone call. One of them picks up the phone and is like, is everything okay? And the other one names the person, didn't wake up this morning, they're dead. And I don't know whether it was because there was a really happy scene happening for the main character who got the call at the time, and it was just so random and out of the blue that I actually laughed out loud, which I know is terrible because it was quite sad that the person had died. But I don't know, so there were just little bits of it that, like, I don't know, there were parts of this book that was pulling me away from a 5-star, and then the last like 5% of the book just brought it down to I think I landed on a 3.75. Now what I will say is, if you've been following for a while, you know I've been on my Abby Jimenez journey. This hasn't brought me backwards. Just for the summer obviously made me fall in love with Abby Jimenez and her writing. This was still written really well and I enjoyed our characters and the plot and everything. It's just that resolution at the end, just for me, didn't do it. Having said that, I am going to continue reading Abby Jimenez. Her newest book, The Night We Met, is the second book in this little interconnected standalone trilogy, so I will pick that one up But with all that being said, we are at the end of today's video. This video took me about 2 weeks to film, and I already know I have a lot of footage to get through, so I don't know how long this video has been, but I feel like it might be one of my longer videos. So if you managed to stay this long into the video, thank you so much. Maybe leave me an emoji, maybe leave me like a sunshine emoji in the comments so I know that somebody actually made it this far. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and more importantly subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out and it will make sure that you don't miss any future videos. But I will see you all in the next one.